Hey there, Johnny May here, and welcome to this week's quick tip where I'm going to teach you my all-time favorite minor chord. I call it the Sorrow Chord, and that's because it has this sad, sorrowful, yet beautiful sound. And it's a very important chord to know if you want to take ordinary minor chords and make them sound gorgeous. Now in this lesson, you'll learn the Sorrow Chord. You'll learn the two-step process so that you can figure out this chord in any key, and then I'll show you how to use it in common chord progressions. So let's go ahead and dive in. All right, so what is the Sorrow Chord? Well, here it is. Ah, doesn't that sound gorgeous? Now, when you see a chord like this, you might be thinking, Johnny, that looks like a really complicated chord, but it's actually a very simple chord if you understand how to build this chord. So that's the next step, is to teach you how to build this chord so that you can start to use it in your piano accompaniment. So what's the trick? How do you actually play this Sorrow Chord? Well, it just takes two steps. The first step is to stack 5 third intervals. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. Let's start on a D, and we're gonna stack a third interval on this D. So if you skip the E and you play the F, that's a third interval. And we're gonna do this for 5 different intervals. So that's gonna be 1. Let's stack another third. That's 2 third intervals. 1, 2. Okay, let's do it again. Skip that B, play the C. Skip the D, play the E, and skip the F and play the G. Okay, that is 5 third intervals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, and the name of this chord, it kind of has a fancy name. It's called the D minor 11 chord. Okay, and you might be thinking, Johnny, I know what a D minor chord is, but what the heck is the 11? Well, you could think of the D as the 1, and then the E is the 2, the F is the 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Okay, so this is why we call it a D minor 11 chord, is because it's a minor chord, but we're adding the 7th, the 9th, and the 11 on top of it. Now, a little trick to help you remember these upper notes is to think of them as the 2 and the 4. Remember when we started on the 1 and we went E and G? That's 2 and 4. It's the same notes as the 9 and 11. Okay, so if you're just getting started with chords like this, I do recommend that you initially think of them as the 2 and the 4. It'll help you quickly find these notes. Now, step number 2 is to play these notes in a certain order. But before I teach you that, if you're enjoying this video, please hit the like button and subscribe for more videos just like this. All right, you ready to play the beautiful Sorrow Chord? Ah, sounds gorgeous. And the cool thing is that all of the notes that I just played come from the D minor 11 chord. Isn't that cool? But the key to play the Sorrow Chord is that you have to play them in a very specific order. And so this is the order of notes for the Sorrow Chord. Okay, we're gonna start with the 1 on the bottom, the D. Then we're gonna put the 5th of the chord above that. That's the A. Then above this, we're gonna put the 2, which is the E. Okay, or you could think of it as the 9. Okay, so this is the left hand, the way I recommend playing it. Okay, then in the right hand, we're gonna put the 3rd of the chord here. That's our thumb. Then our thumb is gonna share the G, which is the 11 or the 4 of the chord. We're almost done with the chord. Then we're gonna put the 7 there, that's the C. Then we're gonna put the 2 or the 9 there, that's the E. And then finally, we're gonna put the 11 or the 4 on the top, and that is the G. And congratulations, you just learned the Sorrow Chord. Go ahead and play that chord. Doesn't that sound gorgeous? It has a lot of tension in it and kind of a sense of longing. And something I encourage you to do is to try rolling this chord. You'll really start to appreciate the notes of this chord if you roll the chord. Now, before I teach you how to use this in chord progressions, let's try to figure out this chord in a different key. For example, how would you build the Sorrow Chord in the key of A? Well, the first step is to stack 5 third intervals. So we start on the A. There's my first third, second third, fourth third, fifth third, sixth third. So that's an A minor 11 chord. I have all of the notes of the chord. Now I can figure this chord out with this little number formula. We put the 1 on the bottom, the 5, the 2 or the 9, the 3 with the thumb. Then you also want to play the 4 with the thumb, and you kind of have to turn your thumb a little bit sideways to grab both of these notes. Then the 7, then the 2 again, and the 4. Doesn't that sound gorgeous? And so you can figure this chord out in almost any key, like F minor 11. Again, all you have to follow is this two-step formula. All right, you learned your sorrow chord. You learned the two-step process to playing these chords in any key. Well, how do you actually use them in chord progressions? Because that's kind of the final goal, is you want to be able to play these chords when you're accompanying a singer or another instrumentalist. So I'm going to teach you 2 common chord progressions that you can use the sorrow chord in. And the first progression is a very common progression. And for this progression, we're going to go C major. We're going to play a G major. We'll put a little B in the bass there, so we get a little bass line, and then A minor. Okay? This is a very, very common chord progression, especially for, love songs. You'll hear this chord progression used a lot. Well, how do you actually use the sorrow chord in this chord progression? Well, check it out. Isn't that gorgeous? And it really takes your accompaniment to a whole new level, because when you land on that final chord, you hear all of those beautiful chord colors. So here's what I did. We started on a C major chord, kind of an ordinary way of playing this. On the G chord, what I did is I kind of spread out my G chord and I put a little C melody on the top to get me to the final chord. And this is a really cool technique that you can use when you're trying to get up to that final note, that top note of the sorrow chord. You want to generally have a melody note that is nearby, so it sounds like it's connected to the previous chords. Okay, and then we land on our beautiful sorrow chord. And once again, we're playing this A minor 11 chord the exact way that I taught you earlier. All right, let's go ahead and play these chords with the included backing track. Here we go. Here it is, C, G. There's your A minor. Okay, and you can just repeat this. Gorgeous. By the way, this backing track is downloadable over at pianowithjonny.com, as well as the lesson sheet music on the top left of this screen. You can download and print it, and you can change the key with the click of one button. So you can practice this entire lesson in any key. All right, you ready to learn the final chord progression? In progression number 2, we're going to play the sorrow chord on a D minor chord. And this is the 2 chord in the key of C major. And recall that I said the sorrow chord works on minor chords. And if you're playing a chord progression in the key of C, there are 2 minor chords that you will typically see. You'll see an A minor, which we already discussed in progression number 1, but oftentimes you'll see a D minor in a chord progression in the key of C. So you want to be able to play the sorrow chord over the D minor chord. So that's what we're going to do next. In progression number 2, we're going to start on an F major chord like this. Go ahead and play that. Then we're going to play a C major with an E in the bass. And then on the D minor, we're going to play it like that. Okay? Now, this is a very simple way of playing this chord progression, but you want to play it with your sorrow chord on the D. So let's go ahead and do our transformation. Here's how we're going to transform it. Doesn't that sound gorgeous? And basically what we did on our transformation here, we played our F major chord, and I put a G on the top just to make it a little bit more colorful. You can do this on a major chord. Then this is our normal C major chord with the E in the bass. It's kind of spread out. And then we play our beautiful sorrow chord in it's right there. All right, let's go ahead and play this with the included backing track. But before we do this, if you're enjoying this lesson and you want to learn more about chords like the Sorrow Chord and how to build these gorgeous chords, I recommend that you check out our Chord Extensions course over at pianowithjonny.com, and I'll put a link to that below. All right, let's go ahead and play it with a backing track. Here it is. 2, here we go. And the C, and the Sorrow Chord. Isn't that gorgeous? You can roll down the chord. Hey, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this lesson, be sure to check out pianowithjonny.com. We have over 1,000 step-by-step lessons for all playing levels where you'll learn your favorite songs, styles, and how to improvise at the piano. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.